Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hi, everybody.
We're going to change things up a little bit this week.
Yeah, we got a little feedback. Didn't you have somebody tell you that they love listening to our show, but we need to go off script more?
It was a coaching client I was working with last week. And kind of that whole conversation is what today's episode is going to be around.
Okay.
But one of the things that he said was, "Oh, I just love it when you guys are laughing and having fun and when you're going off script." So, Robin doesn't always like it when I go off script.
No, Robin gets a little nervous sometimes, but that's okay.
But I think we both do a pretty good job of when we do go off script.
Well, we'll see.
So instead of having a real sort of rigid framework for our podcast episode today, we have a few talking points, and we're just going to kind of see where it goes this time.
Right. I think that's a good idea. We need to do that once in a while.
Yeah.
We forget. We get so tied up in the structure of things that we forget why we're doing this and who we're doing it for. So let's just keep it laid back today, Brian.
Okay.
What do you think?
Okay, laid back it is.
All right.
Laid back it is. So I had this coaching session with a relatively new coaching student / client. And I always like to get an idea of where that person is with their day job, with their family life, whether they have a spouse or a partner who's with them in the business and things like that.
Yeah, I do too. One of the great things that we love about the Jim Cockrum coaching program that we are coaches in, one of the great things about that, I think, is that it's not a curriculum that you go through step by step, whether you need it or not. We're going to take you through this. We try as coaches to find out where you are and meet you there and get you started there. Some of you are way more advanced in some areas than others, and it's different areas for everyone. And we want to make sure we have a tailored plan for you individually, as opposed to something, some hole that you're supposed to fit into.
Right. So when I'm inquiring about what's going on with his day job, he's recently retired, he is married, and his spouse is what I would say skeptically supportive. I think we see this a lot. Right?
Yeah, I was that.
I don't think you were skeptical.
Not really, but I was cautious. I was not motivated.
Cautiously supportive? Yeah.
I was not motivated. I wasn't seeing what you were seeing. I hadn't been in front of the things that were given to you. So I didn't have the motivation at the time. When you got started. Yeah,
I mean, there were a number of things that were going on at that time. Yeah, I think we were still, neither of us were really entertaining doing anything that was going to put us out there, expose us to some things that could go bad because of what had happened in previous experiences, right?
Right. We kind of have tried, as you might have heard if you've heard us talk before, we've tried a whole bunch of different entrepreneurial plans. Mm-hmm. Some of which have, all of them have worked to varying degrees, some better than others. But we kind of got burned on the last one before this one, and it was a while.
It was a self-inflicted burn, but nonetheless, right?
Not that it wasn't our fault.
Yeah.
Or us not being prepared for what was going to happen. Yeah.
Well, what was interesting to me is that we see this from both sides, whether either partner. Right? One partner gets excited about it and struggles to convince, or the other partner doesn't get convinced. And so there is varying degrees of support
of course,
from the other partner. Mm-hmm. And I'll say when I first started, you were supportive, but you were not involved. Right?
Not at all.
Not involved at all. You had other things going. You were motivated, all of the stuff we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. And with this particular coaching client that I was working with, I would say, just to not without revealing too much, his spouse is supportive too. Mm-hmm. It took a little bit of convincing, but to be fair, the spouse who's not involved in the business, like you weren't when I first started, hadn't heard 20 or 30 podcasts.
And just to be clear, there's not a requirement for both spouses to be involved.
No, I don't think there is.
Not at all. We have plenty of people who do this without a spouse involved.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just kind of cool when you both are there, when you have a partner in it, how that can evolve over time.
Yeah.
And that is something we'll talk about a little bit later, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, bottom line is we see this with a lot of coaching clients. Sometimes it's the couple. Usually it's not. Usually it's one or the other. And then we like to get in there and make a mess and really show them.
We do like to make a mess.
how this works and how they could maybe get their partner's attention at some point in the future. But when I was first starting, I had the benefit of listening to a lot of podcasts. Like I've said before, I couldn't wait for the next new podcast episode to come out, right?
Yeah, and you had a lot of road time, so that's what you were doing during your road time.
Exactly. I did have a lot of road time.
And I wasn't there with you.
So I was able to not only to listen to this podcast, but I was able to listen to other podcasts. I was able to hear about people doing things online with Amazon, just or e-commerce in general. You remember when I used to come home and say, what is it that we have in this house that you would never think that we should sell, that we could sell?
We went through a period of think about it. What is it that you wish you had, or that
what is it that you think, or what is it that you wish worked way better than it does today, right?
Trying to come up with something to invent, right? Yeah, so that was one of the iterations you went through when you were finding this community, right?
Oh gosh, I remember this thing that goes in the bottom of your door for your car, and it actually shines a light on the ground.
Oh, I thought that was the coolest thing when we first started looking at Audis, and they had and the light. And it showed the Audi rings when you open the door. I thought that was the coolest thing.
It's kind of like the Batman signal up in the sky, only it's on the ground, right? Well, anyway.
Now, though, they're everywhere.
Now,
but it was kind of a unique thing back then.
6-7 years ago, it was pretty unique. But there were some people selling those things on Amazon. And I thought,
custom ones even.
Yeah, custom ones. Whatever design you want, or here's the Batman symbol, or here's the here's the
still
whatever.
Doesn't sound like a horrible idea.
Yeah, it still doesn't seem like a horrible idea. But anyway, I remember getting excited about that and then seeing, oh yeah, there were a lot of people actually, not a lot, but there were some people exploring that space. And since then, you always come up with the can't wait until we make our own bed company so that we can make a better bed, right?
I got to tell you, if I could make a bed / mattress company and a pillow company, different than anything I've ever seen before. I never quite have exactly what I want. Someday I'm going to invent exactly what I want. And we'll all be happy because you don't know what you want. You want what I want, right?
Right.
I'll tell everybody what they want.
Well, I do know what I want. And ironic, it's not ironic, but we both actually kind of want the same thing. We experience the same things with the bed. We're like, oh, if it just did this, it would be better. Right? Or if we had a bed that felt like this, it would be better. I'm the same way
with the CPAP machine. There's so many improvements that could be made there.
Well, anyway, when I'm getting started, you were supportive.
Yes.
But not involved.
Right.
And so what was I doing? I was coming home after work every night or 4 nights a week.
And this is after you had purchased coaching and you were involved in the community. You'd figure out where you were going to start by then.
There's kind of an interesting story around when I first signed up for coaching.
Oh, is
right?
It? Oh, yeah.
Remember, I'm talking with Deborah, and if you know Deborah, she's a wonderful resource.
We love Deborah.
We love working with Deborah. And Deborah...
We love all those guys.
Deborah wanted to talk to Robin before she approved me to go into coaching. Because I think what she was hoping for at the time, that I wasn't going to get submarined by Robin in this situation, right? Who's like, wait, you signed up for coaching and now...
She must have heard about me somehow.
Yeah, right. So you're like, why do I need to get on the phone with them?
Yeah.
Right? Why do I need to talk to them?
Right. Tell them, Mike, go.
Basically, we get on the phone and she was like, are you supportive in this? And you're like, I'm supportive, but I'm not going to be involved. Okay, that was all. That was basically all she wanted to know. That was it, right?
Yeah. And I was absolutely supportive. I wanted you to do what you felt was the next thing to do. I had other things I had going on. So anyway.
And if I did call you skeptically supportive, I think it would fit because, to be fair, I had a lot of harebrained ideas over the years, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think we both have had a lot of harebrained ideas.
Yeah.
Of course, to me, your ideas are more harebrained than mine are because mine make sense to me easier. Well, that's the way it is for a lot of couples, right?
For sure. I mean,
that's not unusual at all.
I don't think it is.
Go back just a little bit further and help us know how you decided that this was a community in the coaching program that you were going to step into, because you had heard a lot of different ways, different e-commerce ideas and things that you could do to make money, and we tried a bunch of things. What made you make the decision for this community?
Well, that's a good question. And I'll say that I didn't start out in this community. I somehow found my way to this community. And the one thing that stood out to me when I was listening to a number of different sort of, I know Jim wouldn't appreciate if I called him a guru, but expert or, influencer in the space, if you will.
There you go.
Is that there were a lot of people that I related with who were saying things that I could get on board with that made sense to me, that, I was on the same page with, but only a few, 2, 3 maybe, that stood out to me as people that seemed trustworthy. And when I remember just how Jim would respond to people who he had on the podcast, and he's just so modest and, matter of fact about if there's no magic involved here, it's hard work, but it's still available for a lot of people. This is a great opportunity for you to come in and explore if this is what you want to do. And this community is here to help and support you. And so I joined the community and just wanted to test it out. Like, is this the truth? And
so you joined the Facebook group.
Facebook group.
Well, isn't that what Jim always says? Go find the place where these people are meeting, where successful people will tell their stories. Well, that's what you did. You joined the Facebook group and you looked around and you watched a little bit to see what happened.
And he probably had that same or similar messaging back then, which was come check out the success story. See what people are doing. These are real people just like you. Which
I think helped build the trust, because it wasn't just, this is the way it is. And I say so. Come see that is working for people. And here, the podcast is all about success stories and people who have found success through this community.
So that's how I got here.
Okay.
Right. It was like a friend of a friend of a friend. Somehow I found my way to Jim's podcast. And then I sort of dialed in. And the only reason I wasn't 100% into that podcast was because there weren't enough episodes. I had gone through them all, and I'm waiting for another new episode. And I want to keep my excitement up. So then I start listening to, this person's podcast or that company's podcast or whatever, just to stay plugged in. Right. So, okay. So let's talk about this, though. After that coaching happens and I'm starting to build the business, and kind of maybe I'll tell you what was going on, and then you can give me your perspective from how it looked from your side. Okay. But I come home after work every night, 3-4 nights a week, and half days on Saturdays, and I'm doing what is required, I think, to find success in the business. But I didn't really feel like I was finding success. Did I look like it?
No. Those first few weeks, boy, you were dedicated.
Few months.
You went into your office every night, spent 3 hours in there, came back out, and I knew that you were looking for something. You'd shared a bit with me, and I didn't understand exactly what you were looking for, but I would ask you when you came out, did you find anything? And you'd say, no, not tonight. And that went on for a while. Like, you kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And as far as I knew, that's what you were doing in there the whole time. Now I know there's a little bit of distraction during that time.
Well, gosh, that was even like before the age of Reels and TikToks and other short form content that is easily it serves as an easy distraction. Today, kick the camera some more.
Sorry. Oopsie. Excuse me.
So I thought I could multitask. So I was in there, quote unquote, sourcing and listening to a podcast or listening to a course and doing something else. Like, I don't know how I thought I could do 2 or 3 things at the same time. But
because you really needed to be focused on one. You had your first step now I know there was a first step to get over, and you have to focus until you can get through that first barrier. And you weren't focusing. Plus, weren't you kind of distracted by other strategies, and you were going to try KDP and you were going to try bundles, and you just got distracted by every shiny thing.
I did
in the community.
There was one thing I didn't do, and that was private label at the time. But everything else that was accessible to me, I was doing it because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Right?
It's not uncommon. I see a lot of people feel like they're missing out if they don't get everything started, rather than a linear process, which we see so much more success, larger, greater, longer term, sustainable success when we see people focus on one thing, then get that down and move to the next thing, get that down and move to the next thing, and add things one step at a time, right?
So it's easy to get distracted, not only with your email and your Facebook and your whatever, but also within different things, even in this community, because there's a lot of content.
Can be really distracting.
Tools and all the today, the people who make the tools are also producing videos and sending them out multiple times a week. And now you've got this live sourcing session, this tutorial on that tool, plus you're trying to source, plus you're trying to figure out how to, get your shipment in, plus you're trying to do your repricing and all that kind of stuff. And it is easy to get distracted.
It really is. And it's not unusual. If this is happening to you, this happened to us. It is not unusual. It is something, however, to overcome.
It is. And the overcoming is like, put your phone in the other room, right? Turn off everything. Turn off the email. Close the Facebook down. Close everything down. So the only thing that you have going on until you can focus, you're not going to solve really, I think, the sourcing problem.
I agree. And we see it happening all the time.
Right.
Until people find that they just need to do this one thing and get it going, they are just constantly distracted and they never quite get past that barrier.
So then let me ask you this, because you've told me this and I don't think it's in confidence. So just share with everyone else.
Okay. Now I'm scared. See?
When I was coming out night after night and I'm like, no, what was going through your head?
Well, I didn't want you to feel, because we'd made some changes for you to be able to do this. We'd moved, we had, changed our lifestyle a little bit and spent some money, right? Invested some money. And I knew that had happened, but I did not want you to feel like because you had, especially, changed things and asked me to change things, that I wasn't going to be okay if you just decided, well, this isn't going to work. I wasn't going to, shut you down and make you feel bad. And so I was afraid you felt like that. So I kind of tried to let you off the hook when you were like, no, I didn't find anything. I would say, well, you don't, if this is not working, it's okay. You don't have to do this. But you were dedicated. You said, no, I'm going to do this. I just haven't figured out how yet. I haven't figured out what's going to get it to how did you say it? I'm not saying it very well.
I just said, oh no, and you say we changed our lifestyle a little bit. It was a lot bit. Okay.
Quite a bit.
I came home, I was fired up about this.
Yeah.
And we had multiple conversations and I was convinced that this was going to be an avenue for us. And you bought in to what I was selling. And we sold a home. We relocated to another city. We did a lot of things to enable that to happen.
I still wasn't involved in that business.
Right.
But that's how supportive I was.
Yes.
So give me a little pat on the back there.
Absolutely. You were 100% supportive. But
I kind of hoped that you were going to, come up with
you wanted me to be
that thing
successful.
That we've always been looking for.
Right.
Sure.
You wanted me to be successful, but at the same time, you didn't want me to feel like I was going to do this until I couldn't do it anymore, simply because of what we had committed to at that point.
Right. I didn't want that to be the reason that you changed your mind.
I just want to divert a little bit here and talk about the concept that was going through my head at the time, or the way I was feeling at the time, and the way I try to explain that to people now.
Again, this is when you're brand new and you haven't sent any shipments or very few into Amazon.
I've shared before, I think we were doing like 2,000-3,000 a month for 2, 3, 4 months in a row.
So you were sending shipments in,
yes,
but nothing significant yet. Nothing
landed with me that made me be able to repeat that process. Right? I had found some things that I could not repeat. So then I was finding new things that I could not. I was trying to find new things that that were repeatable for me. And quite honestly, I had 2 coaching sessions with my coach. And then I left her alone and thinking I had it figured out now. And I thought, well, okay, so it's on me.
Yeah.
It's on me to figure out how to do this. And thankfully, I did go get plugged back into my coach, and that changed the game for me. But at the time, I remember thinking, well, some pressure because of all the things that had changed that we were talking about. And I was committed. Like I was not in this for 80%.
Right.
I was not in this for 90%. I wasn't in it for 99%, and I wasn't in it for 99.999%. This is what I like to share with people that I'm working with today. This is what resonates with me today, right? I was in it for 100%. And that, to me, is the difference between committed and non-committed. You could be 99.999% committed, or, maybe committed is not the right word, because that's implies that I'm already 100%, but in favor of doing this. But that still leaves a hedge. That still leaves a space between not committed and committed. Right. So I was committed.
You were committed.
Right. And I think if you are committed, this is what I tell coaching clients, if you are committed, if you're 100%, in other words, there is absolutely no doubt in your mind that you're going to get this figured out, then you're going to get it figured out.
You're going to find a way.
You'll find a way.
And what do we say? People who find a way find success.
Find success, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that you were committed by the answers you were giving me, but I was sad that it wasn't working out for you. I wasn't getting excited yet.
It doesn't mean it's easy.
Right.
Pretty simple, but doesn't mean it's easy. And the most of it, the biggest part, I think, is just sticking around long enough to give yourself the opportunity to absorb what it is that you need to absorb, to
get yourself settled down, get yourself into a plan of how it's going to work. It's, you're not going to get rich overnight. You're not even going to find success overnight. You're going to find success, what do you say, in increments, in iterations.
I call them iterations, but cycles. We talk about the cycles a lot, right? It's going from the beginning to the end, a whole cycle. And then when the next time you implement that cycle, you implement the things that you've learned from the first one, the mistakes, the lessons learned, the things you're not going to repeat.
And repeat the things that did work.
The things that did work, right.
Many things the answers to the questions that you didn't know. Yeah. All of that, right. So you were finding a little bit of success in iterations, but you hadn't gotten my attention yet.
No, I hadn't gotten your attention yet, but I did get my coach's attention after I sort of implied that she wasn't teaching me what I needed to know.
Well, that was, I'm sure, all her fault.
Oh, well, yes. Right. And she said, no, hold on. And she grabbed me she's like, come here, let me tell you how this works.
Through Zoom. She reached through the Zoom. Yeah, that's what it felt like, I'm sure.
Yes. And said, it's because you're not doing what I told you to do. Yeah. Right? Or what we described or what we practiced.
When at first you don't succeed, go back and do what your coach told you to do in the first place. Right?
Right. Okay. Well, so that was a big help. But at that point, I was not boastful. I don't think I was boastful or bragging or even necessarily complaining at any point throughout this process. And the people that I work with usually don't do that either, right?
No.
You usually have something to prove first to yourself before you prove to anyone else, right?
Right.
So it's an internal motivation. It's an internal desire, an internal fire that's going to make that happen for you.
Yeah. And, we see a lot of people that you build that fire within and you find motivation. You're listening to these things and reading these materials that help you decide and help you see what you can achieve. And the problem is then you go to talk to your friends or your spouse who's not involved and it's hard to repeat that because you haven't found it. They say, well, have you made any money? No. Okay, well, then they don't get that excited. So that's why it's really, really, really good idea to be involved in a community that you can share these things with and can encourage you. Wait, why am I doing this again? No, remember, you're okay. It's going to happen. It's happened for these people. It's going to happen for you too. Being part of a community really, really helps that. That is one of the main things I think that helped us be successful in this business with this community that we never had in all of those trials and missteps before in our lives.
I agree with you. And it's like if you need that motivation, if you need that fire, if you need to stoke the flames a little bit, come take a look at the success stories on the Facebook page. Turn on a podcast episode that isn't Robin and I going off script, right? Of success stories of people. And that will help you and also give you the words.
Right.
I think a lot of times when you're new in this business and people are asking you, your friends, your family, well, how's it going for you? You don't have necessarily a great response to that because you don't have the words, right?
Right.
And so by hanging out and listening to other people and seeing what they say and how it's working for them, then you can get the words too. Or you don't even have to defend yourself in that situation if you don't want to.
Well, yeah. It's not something that you need other people's approval for, but it is. But these situations do happen, and being part of a community really helps. It is absolutely free to be part of the My Silent Team Facebook group.
Yeah.
I absolutely recommend it. It is absolutely free to listen to this podcast and the success stories that the majority of this podcast has is interviews with success stories from this community. These are absolutely free resources that you can use anytime as long as you want. And it leads to other resources that will be very, very helpful. But shoot, take advantage of what's free first and then move on from there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So then I do start finding some success, right? And I'm at the Proven Conference. Excitement comes. I'm talking with you on the phone every night.
You went to your first Proven Conference.
And then I got your attention, right?
Yeah.
Then I got your attention. When we had our first $10,000 a month, got your attention, right? Within a couple of months after that, we're doing over $20,000 a month. Within a couple of months after that, we're doing $50,000 a month. And it becomes, just hold that thought for a second. It comes because I get your attention and then we start working together in the business.
Yes.
Again, not a requirement.
No, not at all.
Not all couples have to work together in this business, but for us, it was a huge help.
So it was when you went to that first Proven Conference, I feel like was the time around when I really started getting interested, because you would call me at night, of course, and you talked to me about what you learned that day, who you met that day. It was pretty impactful to you, and I could tell you were getting excited. And you started telling me things about that I didn't understand. Like you already had some sales numbers that were, coming right along. You'd done a lot of work that you had found some success, and you just, because of the Proven Conference, I think you just found a new excitement that just spilled over. I was looking to manage some things that had happened in my commitments, and I said, "So tell me more about this whole Amazon thing. How's that working for you? And how can I be involved? How can I make that work for me in where I need to change?"
So, which is kind of the wrap up of the conversation that I had with this coaching student earlier this week. So what I said was, trust me, 6 months from now, when you're doing $20,000 a month, you're going to get your wife's attention. That doesn't mean she has to come and join you in this situation, but
no, that's not a requirement.
Skepticism will likely be gone.
It'll be a different conversation.
Your internal confidence, your confidence level is going to be much higher.
I remember one thing about that period when you told me you were making a statement, a commitment, right? Sometimes you make a statement in order to say your commitment out loud. Yeah. And this was, I'm going to do $25,000 by the end of the year. And I said, oh, that's great. And I'm thinking, well, he always overstates and makes sure he has a high goal, a stretch goal and everything. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Then I realized further in the conversation that you were talking about $25,000 per month, not just overall by December. Well, that sounded a little more interesting. And then I realized that you were talking about month after month after month. And I thought that was pretty cool. But when you showed me the numbers and we actually got to $25,000 a month in sales and more than that by the end of the year, I had I just did not realize that was even possible. I couldn't, it didn't fit in my brain because there was no other business that we tried to do before that we could do that quickly.
And that wasn't super fast. I mean, that was still like 9 months in, right? Yeah. 8-9 months in. So,
but compared to other things that we tried, 9 months is pretty quick.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's pretty level across for a while. It's got, it turns up eventually, but you got to really do there is time included in that startup.
Yeah. Oh, there is. And it's because of the experience that you have to gain. It's because of the iterations, the cycles that you have to go through,
Right.
I think, in order.
And the time the cycles take.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a while for me to find something, then go purchase it, prep it, send it into Amazon's warehouse, get it through the UPS transit, get it sometimes to another warehouse. That takes weeks. And it feels like I did this work weeks ago, and don't even have a chance to sell it yet. And that's part of the process that you have to kind of bake in and realize just because you've finished what you're supposed to do doesn't mean that tomorrow you're going to get a result from that.
Right.
It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But if you keep filling that pipeline, it'll happen one after the other, or after the other once it gets started.
Well, just to maybe fast forward a little bit, I was talking with this particular coaching client about just wait. Someday, 6 months from now, when you're doing $25,000 a month, you're going to get your wife's attention. And if you want to work together, you probably can. Yeah. And I said, how do you think that you would work together? And of course, he's like, I don't know about that. Like, you know, and what's funny is I remember thinking when you were coming to work in the Amazon business that we were just going to like start right off the bat. We were going to be humming right along, right?
Yes, of course.
Because we're married, because we know each other, we love each other, we know all the stuff. Yeah. Right?
No secrets are going to come out.
So we should be able to work really well together.
You'd think.
What do you think? How did that go?
Well, I love you, dear.
Yes.
I still very much love you. But there were some things where we kind of butted heads a little bit, and we had to decide who got to decide. We had to have a tiebreaker. Or there were a lot of things that I didn't completely understand as well, which made it difficult. You were making decisions that I didn't understand. But mostly it's just, running over each other. Put two control freaks in a room, have them to do a task, and see, there are going to be issues. But what helped that is doing it. Iterations of doing it over and over. And then pretty soon we found our grooves. And now we have, since then we've started, you have certain things that you take care of. I have certain things that I take care of. We discuss them and report to each other, but we don't really, process-wise step on each other's toes too much.
So it's rare these days that you and I are doing the doing part of the business other than sourcing.
Right. We have a lot of that outsourced.
And so when I say it used to be like this, it's because we're not really doing that part anymore. But I do remember some things specifically where it was your job or it was my job. And one of the other of us messed it up. Specifically, there was a time that we were in the Midwest visiting family and shopping, picking up products. And we were actually going to send a shipment from your brother's house. Oh, we did send a shipment from your brother's house.
Oh, that's a great story.
And we'd spent the day going around. I mean, we had so much. We had
taken our family. It was a lot of fun.
We had 400 items in this shipment. It was a big shipment.
15, 20 boxes.
Yes, and we were using Inventory Lab, and so what would happen is Robin would tell me what was going in each box, and we kind of divided everything up beforehand. We knew what was going to each location. So then, as I was packing boxes, she would say
several boxes to each location.
Yeah, several boxes each location. Right. Well, if you've never used Inventory Lab, there's a process in there where you have to tell it when you're going to start a new box. Well, Robin didn't tell it that we started a new box from the get-go, and so I was packing all these things in boxes,
sealing them up,
taping them up. And all the stuff, and we get to the end of the shipment, and Robin's like, "Oh no." Okay.
Fortunately, we were the only ones in the house, and my brother and sister-in-law and the kids had all gone
out.
Yeah, they gone out for a while to let us do this shipment because we were like, let us just get this cleaned up because we don't have a lot more time to, So. Yeah, famous last words.
Well, that was not a good. That was not a good moment. Not a good example of how we were working well together. Right?
No, it was not.
But I can think of multiple other instances where you had the boxes right, and we got to the end, and all of a sudden we found this batch of labels for products that were split between all the shipments that I never put on the products. Right, the FNSKU labels. because that was my job. And so I had stickered everything.
As a different time.
Totally different time. Yeah. But so, that happened more than once.
Right.
Right. And so then it's like, okay, you are a grown adult. Why? Right. And I am a grown adult. Why can't I?
Well,
right.
Yes, exactly. This is important. This is not, something we're doing for somebody else's business. Yeah.
And so in the beginning, it wasn't necessarily fluid
not exactly
and
smooth sailing. No.
But we worked it out. Right.
We did.
We figured out what each of us was good at. And now you work in your space and I work in my space. Sometimes we help each other in our spaces. And
I have to say, during that time when we had to repack those 15 or 20 boxes, there wasn't a whole lot of chatting.
No, there was no chatting. There was a little bit of grumpiness happening.
There's a little bit of grump, maybe a little bit of a kind of feel to everything. But
I guess what I'm trying to say with this is each experience that you are working together in is going to present different problems and challenges, things that are going to need to be worked out. So one of the stories that you've told before is when I'm teaching you how to source, okay, this is a moment where you have to ego aside,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Because you're a very smart person and I'm teaching you how to do this. And you're like, it's like grating on you that
you know something I don't know.
Right.
And that you have things like, if it's 1437, it's 1437. It's not 1450. Little things like that will just drive you crazy. And you have to learn to sit back, be okay with your process. I'll be able to do it my way when I do it.
So then when you have to put your ego aside and you're sourcing, and then you're saying, hey, you're getting my buy off on these things, and I'm pointing out mistakes. Oh
gosh, yes.
How did you?
I remember when you said, okay. I said, how do I get involved in this? Can this work for me? I really didn't want to get another job. We had moved. I had a medical issue, and my job was ending where I was, and I was going to have to get another job, and I really didn't want to because of several reasons. So you said, all right, we have, certain savings, certain things we can use. And then if you can find, I don't remember what it was like. It
was like 8 ASINs a day, 5 days a week.
8 ASINs a day, 5 days a week, right?
For the next 6 weeks.
Yep. And so I remember it was by Thanksgiving, right?
Yep.
I had to work all day, every day, because I still had to overcome all those, what does it mean to source? Where do I find the source? Like that long, it seems like forever that you're not finding anything, and then you do, but then that inexperienced part where it really is difficult. Yeah. I still had to overcome that, even though, we had a plan and everything, and you knew how to do it. I didn't know how to do it. So I remember that I would bring you in the mornings, the next morning, everything that I had found the day before. And, maybe there were 5 or 6 some days, there were 12 some days. There were, on average, I was really trying to get that 8 a day done, which was taking hours every day. Yep. And that was all I did. I did not get distracted because I'm a pretty methodical person. And I was really, really determined. So that is really all I did all day long. So I was invested. I would bring you my ASINs and we would look at them together because you were my second set of eyeballs. You were pretty much my coach at the time. Yep. And you would say, oh, this is great. Yep, buy that one. Oh, yep, buy that one. Oh, that is a 2-pack and you priced it for a 1-pack. So that's not going to work. And I would just be crushed.
Or you did the math wrong on it. And I was like, right. That's not 40%. Like, that's 8%.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just crushed. Because I knew I had to go the next day and make up for that. But I didn't want you to know I was crushed because, I can do this.
I know. Yeah.
You're not better than me.
Yeah. Right. Well, so that was, when you start working together, these are the kinds of things I think that you're going to have to experience and overcome. And then just to prove the point that once you solve a problem in one area, it doesn't mean it's solved in all areas.
Right.
fast forward a few years from that.
Yeah.
And we've come up with the idea to do this show, this particular podcast.
Yes.
Okay. And I remember talking to Jim about it. And I was like, hey, Robin.
We had gone through the learning how to work together in content creation. We'd gone through learning how to work together in coaching.
No, we hadn't done any content creation together at that point.
Oh, we hadn't?
No.
Well, we had started coaching together.
Yes, we had done coaching together.
Okay, so a few things. Okay, so this podcast.
Yeah, so
the Coach's Corner.
So the Coach's Corner podcast idea is born, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Jim, Robin, and I are just gonna make some podcasts. This is gonna be cool, great content.
Oh, I know we were coaching because that was part of the thing. We kept having these conversations, and we thought, oh, we should be sharing these conversations about how we're figuring these things out to help people.
So we sit down to do the first episode, and arguments ensue. Okay.
There were a few takes on that one, I think.
And then not only the first one, but then like every single episode for the first 6-9 months was a little bickering back and forth between us to figure out how, we had not found our groove on how to do that.
Right.
And so just when you think, oh yeah, well, we work in this business together, so we're going to go do this thing together. And it wasn't that easy, right? Today, I think it's much easier. We've been doing it for a couple of years. Yeah. This works out, or year. Yeah, it's going on 2 years now.
But we've been told we need to go off script more, so we need to pick it up a little, Brian.
Well, you brought up a good point, and not that we need to unpack everything about that here, but there were episodes where we're doing more storytelling or sharing things about our business or about coaching clients or the questions that we get and maybe how to approach them. And then there's the episodes where we're doing more instructional type stuff, more of the education. And I think the education, there's two great types of episodes that we can do. And we have lately been doing a lot more education style as opposed to relatable type stuff.
Right. So that's why today we haven't had a script.
So yeah,
we're just kind of going along.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think.
Right. We had basically a very rough outline for this.
We love feedback.
Yeah. If there's anything that I want, that I hope everyone takes away from this is that wherever you are in your business, whether you have a partner or not, you can do this. Yeah. If you've got a partner, I believe it's like the synergy where, what is it? The parts are more than some of the whole or something like that. We're worth more than some of the parts. Right?
The parts are worth more than the sum.
The sum of the parts is more than the whole.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, right. Something like that. So that when you get two people.
The whole is more than the sum of the parts.
Okay, whatever that is.
I got it totally wrong. And I get it mixed up because it's really funny when you say
we're more than some of the parts. Is the joke. Yes.
Yes. So anyway.
But working together in the business, we actually do get a lot more done. It's more than just two. It's really like 3 or 4, sometimes 5x what we would get done individually when we're working together.
Right. I agree with that. I think that I had a really good head start because you had laid a lot of the groundwork and built a foundation before I got involved. So I feel really privileged that I had kind of a kickstart there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, anyway, so just to recap, what I told this coaching student was, hey, look, 6 months from now, when you're doing 5 figures a month in sales, this is not going to be an issue. Your choices, you're going to have a lot more choices than you have today.
It's going to be a completely different conversation.
So, you know what you do when you need to buckle down and make that 6 months become a reality?
Just go test some more ASINs.
Go test some more ASINs. All right.
Let's go test some more ASINs.
Let's go take some more ASINs.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Hey, before we let you go, we have a special segment here that we do once per week with our good friend Jeff Schick from jeffschick.com. He is a legal and policy expert on all things Amazon and Walmart and e-commerce in general. He always has some good information and stories for us to help us with our account health. So Jeff, welcome back. And what do you have for us today?
All right. Well, thanks for having me back. So today we're going to talk about refunds and reimbursements. So a lot of sellers probably don't realize this, but Amazon owes you money. And I can say that confidently because unless you've been putting in reimbursement claims and have a refund service or somebody on your team doing it, there's a really good chance that Amazon's lost at least one of your items and owes you some money. So, in general, there's a couple categories of reimbursements. There's ones for items that are lost or damaged on their way to FBA if you purchased through a partnered carrier program or Amazon LTL service. In those cases, Amazon assumes the risk and they'll reimburse you if they lose or damage the inventory on its way to FBA. They also have, missing from inbound. So meaning you ship 10 units, Amazon says they received 7, you're entitled to reimbursement for those 3 missing units once the reconciliation window has opened up. And of course, there's different timelines for when that reconciliation window opens. The other big category that a lot of people forget about is lost and damaged at FBA. So when your items are sitting at FBA, they're constantly being moved around. It's not uncommon for you to ship an item to Los Angeles, Ontario 8, and then all of a sudden find out that it's been sent to St. Louis 4. And it's now in St. Louis being sold. And you're like, well, I sent that to California. How did it end up in St. Louis? And then it might even get transferred again where it goes from St. Louis to Michigan. You just never know. And so, but any time that they transfer inventory, or even if it's just sitting on the shelf, there's a chance that they could lose it or they could damage it. And so that's where Amazon's, where you're entitled to reimbursement for that as well. Now, unfortunately, if you don't go in and request the refunds, Amazon's not going to give it to you. So we did an audit recently for one of our clients, found that Amazon had lost $4,700 worth of inventory. Now, for sellers that don't know this, that was just from the missing FBA warehouse, missing and damaged in the warehouse. For sellers that don't know this, we actually launched a new service where we offer complimentary reimbursements to our retainer clients. So we're not charging a monthly fee and we're not charging a percentage. But what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll audit your Amazon FBA inventory and anything where Amazon's lost or damaged in the warehouse, we'll put in those claims. If we get you $100 back, you keep $100. We don't charge you a percentage service fee and we don't charge you anything extra. It's just a value add that we're offering for our clients who are on retainer. We're not replacing, the other reimbursement services. In fact, we encourage people to have both. So if they want to have us and have Getita, that works perfectly fine because what we don't catch, Getita will probably catch, and then they'll just charge you their service fee on what they find. And so that way you're at least still getting some money back, but it's better for us to catch whatever we can with no commission and no service fee, of course. So we try our best to find that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for people that are already clients on retainer with you, and this is now complimentary, is it just automatically happening for your clients, or do they have to reach out to you to ask to have this start?
So it is an opt-in program. So sellers just have to shoot us an email and say, hey, I'd like to opt in. And then it will check our Seller Central access. If we've already got access to your Seller Central account, then we'll just add you onto our reimbursement list and we'll start doing it. And if we don't have access to your account, then we'll send you instructions to get you on, get access into your seller account, and then we'll take it from there. So it's just pretty easy. And, we're hoping to be a real value add for sellers, so that way they can maximize their profits right now.
Right. Now, I know for sellers that may not have done this in the past, or they've never used any service or anything, but they may be using you or sign up to use you now. How far back can you go on some of these reimbursements? I thought it was 18 months, but I don't know if it's 6 months or if that's changed at all.
So it is 18 months for the FBA lost and damaged in the warehouse. For sellers that have had us on retainer for a decent amount of time, we'll go back the full 18 months. If someone's a brand new seller, then we'll generally go back about 6 months with us, if they're a new seller with us, I should say. And that's just because of the time it takes to go through and do the reimbursements. But as we, go forward, of course, then we're checking as well going back. And so it's, the longer someone's been with us, the more they're getting reimbursements because we have more manpower to go back further. So
right. Okay. Awesome. Well, that's a great addition to the service and, to the retainer clients there. If anyone's interested in checking out Jeff's services, you can go to jeffschick.com. That link will be in the show notes for you. Jeff, thanks so much for being here each week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.